This is the Average to Savage podcast with Paul Guarino. Everyone and anyone, athletes, celebs, and much more.
What's up, everybody? I'm back for another episode of the Average Savage podcast. Our special guest today is co-founder and president of Overtime, Zach. Zach, how's it going?
Good. How about you, Paul?
Good. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So let's just jump right into it. Could you give me a little brief background about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm currently sitting in my office in New York City, and I was born and raised here in New York City as well. Spent the first 18 years of my life here. Grew up a big sports fan, played a bunch of sports, and then I went to Penn down in Philadelphia. Went there for 4 years. While I was there, I did sports radio. That's really how I sort of got my start in the world of sports media. And then while I was there, I started a website called The Sports Quotient. I ran that for actually 5 years. And then when I graduated, I was still running it, but I moved back to New York City. And then a couple of years later, I started Overtime, which is what I'm doing right now. Gotcha.
You already answered my first question.
What was that?
I was going to say, what were your past experiences? And I wanted you to talk about the Sports Quotient, so you already did that. But what was your idea for it back then? I know you had, it was almost like the Facebook for writing or for sports writing.
Yeah, so I mean, essentially the idea was, I was a kid at Penn that loved sports, but wasn't super enthusiastic about the college teams. Actually, it's funny I say that now because I made plans tomorrow to watch the Quakers in the Final Four of the Ivy League tournament. So it's not like I didn't care at all. But, I really wanted to talk about my favorite teams from New York, which were, the Knicks, the Yankees, the Jets, the Rangers, and I felt almost like a displaced sports fan. So I decided I was going to start, basically a sports blog, talking what I thought was kind of smart talk about my favorite teams. And then it kind of dawned on me, like, hey, maybe there are some other smart college kids that can write really well or can do podcasts or video, and they also sort of feel similarly. And they probably are really smart people, too, because they go to really good universities and probably going to go on to do finance or law or some more boring thing. But for now, they still are big sports fans, and maybe they have some time on their hands to do this stuff. So I recruited some of my best friends to join the site and write and edit and stuff like that. And then word sort of got around, and a year later, we had almost 100 writers from, 50-plus universities, and then a year after that, we doubled in size. So, the hypothesis turned out to be pretty much right. And, yeah, it was a really fun community to be a part of and a really fun site to run.
Gotcha. Now, I know after you graduated, you had a couple different jobs. And then, so what made you want to go back and, run your own company?
Yeah, for sure. So what happened basically was I graduated and I was working on the Sports Quotient, but it wasn't really enough to pay the bills. So I was working on Wall Street at the same time. And then I got approached by my current co-founder. His name is Dan Porter, who is the head of digital at WME, now known as Endeavor. And, he wanted to start something in the sports space while there. And he sort of saw what I had done with Sports Quotient, and I knew about his previous successes with startups, and so we sort of teamed up, and I joined WME to launch what would end up becoming Overtime. We didn't really know in the beginning what it would be, but, it was exciting for me to have sort of a different level of resources than what I had with Sports Quotient, and Dan and I really aligned on our vision for what this could become. As soon as we started working on it, it was very exciting. This was really the first time in my life I was able to fully dedicate myself to my own project. For Sports Quotient, I was always in college or I had another full-time job. So it was very liberating for it to become a full-time focus for me.
Yeah, definitely. Now, while you were at the full-time job, was there something that sparked it and you were like, I want to work for myself?
I think I sort of knew all along that there was a good chance I would end up there.
Yeah.
Sort of just waiting for the right opportunity to strike. I mean, when you're a 22-year-old kid that just came out of college, you don't have any sort of built-up wealth or anything like that. It's pretty risky to sort of just go on your own without any sort of backup plan. So when I was afforded this opportunity to join WME, but to sort of start working on what will become Overtime, even just from thinking about it from a risk profile perspective, it was really great. I was able to sort of minimize my risk while still, optimizing my upside and also my happiness.
Definitely. And could you give people that don't know what Overtime is, could you explain it to us?
Yeah, of course. So Overtime is the sports network for the next generation of fans. So, if you look at all the numbers, the next generation of fans, call that, 13 to 30-year-olds on sort of wider spectrum, they're not watching as much live sports. They're not watching as much of the legacy media companies, but they still love sports, and they just want to consume it in different places, in different ways, with different talent, and sometimes different athletes. And so that was really the thesis when we started Overtime. Mm-hmm. And, so we started it as, video-only company. We realized that, young people want to watch sports content. They don't want to read as much. And, so we cover 4 different sports. We cover basketball, soccer, football, and esports. We do hundreds of millions of minutes of watch time every single month. We reach about something like 30 million kids every single month. We create content for Instagram, for Snapchat, for TikTok, for YouTube, for Twitter, for Facebook, basically wherever kids are. Yeah. That's where we want to be, and we've had a good amount of success. Our engagement rates on those platforms are industry high. We've started to work with a bunch of different brands to help monetize that content. We have a thriving commerce business where we sell shirts and hoodies and hats and stuff like that. We've run a couple of live events. We're going to start to do more. Yeah, so it's been a really, really fun process, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, definitely. I've been seeing it rapidly grow over the past few years. So how did you come up with the name Overtime, or why did you pick that?
Yeah, it's funny when you choose a name for something like. Actually, I would say with the sports quotient, as soon as we landed on that name, I was like, oh, this feels great. Like SQ, raise your SQ. Like we're making sports fans smarter. I was actually surprised that it hadn't been taken. And then when we came up with the name Overtime, honestly, I wasn't convinced that it was so much better than all the other names, or that it really felt right. I was like, okay, well, this sort of works. And really, the premise was like, well, we want to cover the games, but we want to cover what happens after the games, too, and that's sort of like overtime, like what happens after regulation, so to speak. I mean, we don't really talk about it in that literal way, but that's sort of where the name came from. And it's funny because now, it's funny you ask that, because people don't even really ask about it anymore. It just sounds right. I think to most people, it's like, oh, yeah, Overtime, that's who you guys are. And if you think about look, before ESPN became huge, it's like, what, ESPN, 4 letters? Then, what is that? So I think at a certain point, it's just, as long as the name, has a ring to it in some ways, it sort of just ends up working. People are like, oh, yeah, Overtime. They're not thinking, oh, it's called Overtime. It just is Overtime.
Yeah, definitely. And was there any close finalists to the naming?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. We considered, I wouldn't say finalist. I would say at the end of the day, Overtime definitely stood out among the rest. But we brainstormed through a ton of ideas. One that popped to mind is Sideline. One that popped to mind is Rally. And it's so funny because, at the time, you can make arguments. Sideline, we're right there on the sideline. Yeah. And then you can make the opposite case of no, we don't want to be on the sideline. We want to be in the game. And then Rally was like, okay, we're all about the fans and rallying around players and stuff like that. But now I think about it, and it's like, did you have a cool company called Rally? Is that even possible? So it's just funny how these sort of things work out sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And was the original plan? I remember you guys had the app, and it was mainly high school basketball, correct?
Yeah. So we sort of come through an evolution. So yeah, I would say that in the beginning it was very app focused, and it was very high school basketball focused. And in terms of the app, we actually have gotten rid of the app because we've just realized that the social platforms are so good, and that's what they're meant for. They're meant for viewing this content. There's billions of users on them. And instead, we've leveraged our technology for content capture. So, and this relates to high school basketball. So we're still probably the biggest in high school basketball, but we never really set out to become a high school basketball company. We use it sort of as an entry point into the hearts and minds of young people. And sort of once we did that, then we're like, okay, now we can expand to football and soccer and professional basketball and college basketball. So we're not really limited by sport or by, sort of age. We are passionate about sort of this next generation of basketball stars, but we're also passionate about the next generation of soccer and football and esports stars. And the reason why we sort of transfer the technology as well is because when you think about, high school basketball and the next generation of stars, it's very hard to capture video content of them. And it's never really been done in real time. It's either once a year their game is on, local television or ESPN if they're really good or whatever it is. But other than that, the only way to really view the games has been a coaching tool or something that, the footage is available a couple days later. And we built this technology where basically we send a kid to a game, he pulls open his phone, and in real time he can send the highlights to our server. So last year when Zion was making all those crazy dunks in high school, 2 seconds after he dunked, we could have it on social media, and that sort of brought an excitement to the space that I think had never really been there before.
Yeah, definitely. And I know, yeah, just like you said, you guys expanded, and now you have like original content too, like interviews and stuff like that, and the esports and life at Overtime. So what brought you to like create all that? I know like the esports thing is getting like huge, and I just was still one of your other interviews, and I heard that you made the Fortnite team in like a week.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we're trying to build a sports network for the next generation. We need kids all over the world to love Overtime and to view it, as a place where they watch sports content. And to be honest, you can't really do that just off of 15-second clips. Yeah. Like, you can totally start to build some community and some brand building, and it's a very economically efficient way to do it, and it's a very fun way to do it. But, if you want to be a sports network, yeah, kids just can't be watching for 15 seconds. Eventually, we want them to be watching hours of Overtime content a day. And obviously, content is expensive, so we don't produce hours of content every single day, but eventually we will. And so it's a process, but we already have, I think, 16 series on YouTube, 3 on Snapchat. We program on, something like 10 different Instagram channels. We create different content for TikTok that we do for Twitter. And so it's about really being holistic in our approach and creating content at sort of all different levels.
Yeah, definitely. And I just saw you recently acquired She Hoops Network, and you switched it to the women's basketball page. So what impact do you think that will have on the company?
I think it's really important. I would say both from a business case and I don't want to say moral case, but I would say even a personal case. Like it's very important that we cover women's sports as well. I think it's more popular than ever. And these women have amazing stories, and they're also amazing on the court. So, to be able to hire Chloe and work with her and growing out that channel is I think, going to be really exciting.
Yeah, definitely. Pretty much a no-brainer, huh?
Yeah, totally.
And I saw you're going global too, and I saw you had a French page and a page for India too, right?
Yeah, the international opportunity is huge. My co-founder was in France a couple weeks ago, and he was wearing an Overtime shirt, and people are stopping him, and everyone across the world. Let's put it this way: not everyone across the world, but there are people and kids across the world that love the Overtime brand. So for us to be able to bring it to their country and show them stars in their own country and leverage our technology to do that, I think it's something really unique and really impactful.
Yeah, definitely. Why did you pick France and India?
Just sort of doing some research, we saw that basketball is really exploding in those 2 countries. We also launched in Canada. So I think between those 3, you get 3 very different markets.
Yes. And
you get some language barriers, some non-language barriers. So it's great for our experimentation. There's also good up-and-coming players in those countries. India, obviously, is probably other than China, the biggest market opportunity. So that's important. And then we found good people there to sort of help launch it too.
Gotcha. Are you planning on doing one for China too?
Not in the next couple weeks or anything like that. Yeah. But I would say down the line, there's a definite possibility.
Yeah, for sure. And I saw last year Kevin Durant invested in the company. So what kind of impact did that have?
It's been great. Kevin and his business partner, Rich, they've been helpful. We've done a couple of video series with them. Obviously, just lending their name to us is big credibility. They open up doors. So it's exciting to work with Kevin.
Yeah, definitely. And we kind of already touched on it, but how has Overtime changed since you founded it in 2016?
Yeah, it's crazy. It just feels so different. For one, I walk around our office and, we were 5 people back then and now we're 70. So it's, the size and the scale in terms of employees, in terms of our audience, in terms of the content that we're producing, is just obviously massively different. And, the way, that obviously impacts on the business side, but it also affects me in my personal life. To be honest, it's very cool to, be able to walk down the street in an Overtime shirt and for kids to freak out, or to be at a networking event or a party or whatever it is, and people are like, oh, yeah, you're the guy that founded Overtime. And it's very flattering, and it's just a very nice feeling. So I'm very grateful by all the success that we've had. And it's not just me. It's my co-founders, our entire team, and, of course, there's a lot of luck. There's timing. There's all the support and mentorship that I've received, that we've all received. So there's definitely a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, definitely. When I was doing my research, I didn't even realize it's only been like 2 years since you guys launched.
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
Yeah, and what's your goals for 2019 and beyond? And when I also was listening to the interview, I heard you guys want to create your own league.
Yeah, so we've touched on a lot of the things. International is huge, I mentioned, but live events is going to become bigger for us, and I think that live events could eventually turn into a league. I think if you look at most leagues that have been started, some of them successful, some of them not. The things that can really help bolster a league are built-in audience and storytelling. And if you have those things, the league not just sort of like a drop in the pond where no one sort of knows about it. If you have millions and millions of people already following you, which we do, and you have the capability to tell narratives around that league and around the teams and around the players, that's really differentiating, and I think kind of gives you an unfair advantage when you think about starting a league. So that's definitely in our future. Commerce, increasing our efforts there is going to be huge. We have some collaborations that we're going to announce, increasing our SKU. And then just always thinking about how we can continue to support our fans, whether that's better and more content series, getting more into working with NBA players, going way deeper into esports. And then, I want to make more money this year, too. I want to be working with more brands. I think the brands that have taken a leap of faith to work with us have seen an amazing return on their investment. So I want to continue working with partners that are excited to work with us.
Yeah, definitely. And what advice would you give to inspiring entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I would say, I would say the biggest hurdle that aspiring entrepreneurs sometimes have, and I have this problem too, is, just getting started. I think the type of people that are entrepreneurs often are, perfectionists. They're just really ambitious people, and those can sometimes be at odds. If you want to do something perfectly, you're never going to get started, because the first step you take might be a wrong step, and that's okay. I think you have to get comfortable with making mistakes and sort of just, in tech terms, putting out MVP, putting out minimum viable products. You got to put some stuff out, test it out, see if you like it, see if there's a market for it. I can't emphasize enough, how often you see people putting in way too much effort before they even launch anything or put something out into the world and see if there's actually any interest. Because the bottom line is you're not going to know until you actually try.
Yeah, definitely. You just got to put it out there.
Exactly.
All right, ready for some fun questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, who do you think is going to be the next big high school basketball star? Like next Zion, next LaMelo?
Great question. I'll say, the cheating answer is Bronny James, because he's technically not in high school, so he counts, but he's already mega. But I'll say Amani Bates.
All right. What do you enjoy watching more, college basketball or NBA?
That's a tough one. I would say growing up, NBA by far. Now, if college basketball has a player that we've covered for a long time or someone that the company has a relationship with, I would say it's tied. But I love. I was watching the Warriors Rockets game, and I love the NBA, so it's difficult.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's definitely cool seeing somebody that you follow from high school to college, and then you see him in the NBA.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, I love watching Hawks games because Trae Young was my guy, and I sort of believed in him, when he was in high school, and now it's come to fruition. So that's been cool.
Definitely. And could you name 3 basketball jerseys that you would want that you don't own?
Ooh, I like that one. Okay. I'll say a Trae Young Norman High School jersey. I think that would be dope.
Okay.
I would say, when I was a kid, I had this, when you're a teenager, you want to be a contrarian. So I was a huge Knicks fan growing up. And I remember, Reggie Miller was just, such a, not a bully to the Knicks, but he sort of crushed us. But for some reason, when I was in high school, I was obsessed with getting a Reggie Miller jersey. I just thought, the irony in owning one would be fun. So, to make my younger kids self happy, I'll say a Reggie Miller jersey. And then I'm trying to think of just, a fire jersey. I don't know. When I was younger, I used to do these Alex English jerseys all around, with the old Denver Nuggets logo and colors.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. Or, I don't know, maybe an old John Stockton Jazz jersey. Those just look so cool.
Yeah, definitely. I like the first one where you said Trae Young's high school jersey.
Yeah, that would be tough.
I had someone else say a Barack Obama high school jersey.
Ooh, that's very tough.
Yeah,
I would wear that.
Yeah, that one was pretty cool. And last one, what do you like to do in your free time?
I like to see my friends. I've been, as an entrepreneur, you don't have a lot of time. There's definitely a lot of truth to that. But, and so honestly, there's a lot of people that I don't get to see as much as I would like. But when I do have time to hang out with my friends, I make sure that it's really the people that I really care about and hold true and dear. So I spend time with friends. I play a lot of basketball. I think, staying physically active is a huge part of being successful. And keeping your brain smart. And then when I can, I try to play chess. I played a lot of chess growing up, so right now it's mostly online, but I hope to get back and playing in tournaments as well.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate you coming on. And where can people find you in Overtime at?
Yeah, for sure. So whatever platform you're on, Overtime is there, whether that's like a newer platform like TikTok or one of the older ones like Facebook or Instagram or YouTube. So that's where we're basically at Overtime everywhere. And then personally, you can follow me on Instagram at Overtime Zack.
All right. Once again, appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Paul.